Hey everyone, this is Lloyd, and I had more fun putting this together than I did recording and trying to figure out the technology behind this. So I'm hoping this will work. But I picked McClelland's acquired need theory. Never heard of it before, so I'm glad I picked it because I thought it was just actually very fascinating and interesting. And I'm looking forward to watching your videos and seeing what you researched and the summary of your theories. So 10 minutes or less, try to get through this and try to make it interesting. Again, this is for our motivation and influence class in card. Okay, so what am I going to cover real quickly here? Well, I'll introduce you McClelland's acquired need theory, what the definition of that theory is, maybe a little bit of the history and background of it. Obviously, the key aspects of the theory. I'll throw in a visual model as required by the assignment, and then just super briefly go over three research papers that I found that pulled in McClelland's theory into some more modern day research applications. So again, I thought were pretty interesting. So McClelland's acquired needs theory, actually known by a lot of different names: theory of needs, the three needs theory. There's a couple ways to describe it. I like the three needs theory because it really comes from the theory, the idea that there are three basic needs. The acquired needs theories is really what most academics use, and that comes from the idea that McClelland felt that these needs were acquired, not innate. And so again, he has achievement, affiliation, and power as those three needs for motivation, and that they're acquired over time through life experiences, whatever it is through parenting, through jobs, through socializing, and that the idea is not one person has an equal amount, but there is one dominant need per an individual, whether it's achievement, affiliation, or power. But there's a higher need of one of those three that influence their leadership, that influence their relationships. So David McClelland himself, a little bit on the older side, right? So he born in 1917, and by the way, I have end notes in here. So the resources, the links, all that are in the last slide of this presentation. So you're welcome to use that for access to everything I used. But so he was a psychologist, and he spent 30 years teaching at Harvard, and he was known for his research on motivational theories. And one little tidbit I found in researching him was he is the 15th most cited psychologist of the 20th century. I thought that was kind of neat. There's a picture of him there. And so he developed his theory of needs, or his acquired needs theory, when he was at Harvard. And he actually built it upon Henry Murray's work. So we're not going to go into him, but he was also a psychologist and a professor at Harvard. This was all in the 1940s and 1960s. One interesting tidbit, though, about Henry Murray and his research, this is kind of back before we really had developed the ethics in some of these research projects, and he had picked a set of 22 students to do somewhat of a risky experiment, psychological experiment, and I won't go into that here, but one of those students was Ted Kaczynski, who was later known as the Unabomber. So, is there a connection there? Not sure, but it's a little interesting fact that the power of potential impacts of research projects. He was a student there. So, but anyway, Henry Murray and then David McClelland, their research on motivation, really it started with the achievement idea, focusing more on business and entrepreneurship. Then he developed into the power idea, like what motivates through power. And that actually started with the idea of how did that affect addiction and alcoholism. So it was really kind of an interesting start. And then obviously that's developed into a larger just motivational theory and obviously into leadership as well. So, achievement, affiliation, and power. How does that affect people? How does it affect their actions? How does that motivate people? And that's what this theory of needs tries to explain. He did mention that it doesn't matter, your age or sex, race, culture, all that stuff, that it affects people, motivation equally. But again, it's based on each individual and their life experiences. So I like this visual model here of achievement, affiliation, power. Real briefly, like achievement is drive for success, right? Just general, and we'll get into this in a minute. To be successful, affiliation is about relationships, and power is about having more influence over people. This model shows kind of like a Venn diagram of equal, parts here, but it's not. Every person has more of one than the other, but there's not really a set visual model that would show that. But this is a good way to show it. So let's go into the three ones real briefly. Achievement, and often you'll see the N and then an acronym like N achieve, or that's the need for achievement, right? So this is describing a person's internal drive to excel, to accomplish, to be good at something. Obviously, that's learned over time, just like everything else, through experience, culture, and all of that. What I think what's neat about this need for achievement, it's personal, right? So I put the little guy running there because it's not the need to compete or beat other people, but it's the need to achieve and do your best, right? So the analogy is, if you're a runner and you run 20 minutes, you want to run now 19 minutes, not necessarily beat other people, but achieve to your best. People that have a high need for achievement, motivated by accomplishment, prefer middle risks, not low, not high, not risky behavior, but kind of in the middle. They like feedback. They want to be clear feedback. And they feel like they're personally responsible for what they're doing. Now, what I like about this is that there is a strong connection to technical people like engineers, which many of you probably know by now that I work for an engineering firm, work with a lot of engineers. So understanding that a lot of people I work with may have a high need for achievement is helpful. The other one, affiliation, that's more about wanting to be close to people and have more relationships, being accepted, harmony, all of that good stuff. And so those that have a higher need for affiliation have a strong desire for better relationships, right? They want to work with other people, not compete against them. They are sensitive to feedback. Not that they don't want feedback, but they're sensitive to it. And overall have this desire to work together and everybody, have harmony. So I like this because if you caught my discussion post earlier, I'm a type 9, which is a peacemaker, which I prefer harmony and relating to people the most. So, I have a higher need for affiliation that to motivate me versus achievement or power. And so again, the last one then is power. And power. This is the desire to influence or control, have an impact on others. It's not negative, not automatically negative. And I think this is one of the most interesting parts of the theory of needs, or the acquired needs theory here, because it can be good and bad. All of them can be good or bad, but especially power, right? So this is a desire to influence, a desire to lead, direct others. They want to be in a leadership role. They're sensitive to recognition if they don't get it. They want to know that their actions have a difference and that they're kind of in control. So I haven't really talked about my references yet, but I wanted to highlight this one, McClelland's The Two Faces of Power, which I thought was a really interesting paper about the dark side of power, right? We could all pick some pretty obvious examples of people that have been in power that used it in a negative way to influence others. So not automatically negative to have a need for power, and that what motivates you, but we have to be very aware of two faces of power. So time's going quick. I'll go over these three research studies briefly. I found this one, Motivation Matters, the role of achievement, affiliation, and power needs in digital peer collaboration among business school students. So this is a recent article. I thought it was neat because it's kind of modern day. digital peer collaboration. So taking McClelland's theory from back in the in the 60s here, and how does that work with students today online? So I thought it was a neat study. He compares it to the theory of planned behavior, which we're not talking about here, which is it's a whole other thing, which is great. But what motivates? What are the things that motivate online peer collaboration? And specifically achievement, and how achievement positively influences collaboration in the online context. It's kind of a neat study. This one was the influence of achievement needs and employee outcomes. So again, this is focused more on the achievement part, so not affiliation or not power, but achievement on people that have higher achievement needs, and how does that affect the outcomes? So this was a recent study as well, and how achievement drives motivation, personal motivation, and therefore work performance in an online setting. So that was a neat study. Third one here, from a mentor's perspective, discovering factors that foster achievement, motivation, in engineering. So again, I picked this one because, again, I'm very interested more in the engineering world in my own job context. So how does the idea of achievement, again, achievement, not affiliation or power, affect students, engineering students specifically, in how they do their work, how they work with others. So thought that was a great paper. It was presented at a conference by a PhD student, and I have the links to all of these. So real quick, we're over 12 minutes. Summary theory of needs. People are primarily motivated by 3 learned needs: achievement, affiliation, power. Again, achievement, drive to excel, set goals, have results. Affiliation, relationships, belong, harmony. Power is influence, lead, or have impact. These are all learned behaviors. You go through life, they're not innate to each person. This is McClelland's theory. Effective leaders, that's what we all hope to be, balance all 3 needs. Rather than relying or being greatly influenced by one, we have to recognize that we are. And understanding that will help predict behavior in people that are your followers, with your own leadership style, and obviously overall performance in the workplace. So in conclusion, this is McClelland's seminal work, The Achieving Society, in 1961. So you can get it online for free, the actual text of the old one. But I did find it at Amazon.com, 2010 reprint. It's like $15, The Achieving Society. So if you're interested in learning more, that's probably your best place to look if you want the actual book. And then here on my references, most of them have links. If not, you can cut and paste and find it pretty quickly online as well. So thank you. 13 minutes or so, a little over. I hope that was interesting, and I look forward to your feedback. Thank you.